Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruch.com.
Until what time may the morning Shema be recited? When is Seif Zman Kriya Shema? So we are all aware of the mitzvah, the biblical command in the Torah for men to recite Kriya Shema every morning, as brought in the Mishnah in Brachos 21a, and recorded in the Shulchan Aruch chapter 58, based on the verse in Shema, that it states, Ubeshach b'chov kumecha, that you should say these words, v'dibar tabam, the words of Shema paragraph, when you lie and when you wake up, when you stand up, from which we derive the obligation for one to recite the morning Shema and the night Shema. And the question is asked, until what time must the morning Shema be said until? So many of us are already aware of the different times mentioned on the calendars, and Amir Hashem, this lesson and the next following lesson will clarify for us in detail the essence behind these end times. First, as we'll discuss in this lesson, why is there an end time and how severe is it? And as we'll discuss in the second lesson, what's the difference between the various times mentioned in the calendar and which time does one have to follow or should one follow? And practically by when should Shema be said? So let's begin. It's an explicit Mishnah in Brachos 9b, states Rabbi Yehoshua, that until when may the morning Shema be recited? Ad shalish shais, until 3 hours. Shekein derech b'nei melachim nam b'shalish shais, as kings still awaken within 3 hours of the day. And this ruling of the Mishnah is recorded in the Rambam, in the Mechaber Shulchan Aruch in chapter 58, and in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Halacha 3, unanimously without argument. And as the Rambam and the Alter Rebbe emphasize in his Shulchan Aruch, the intent of the 3 hours is up until the end of 3 hours. So it's not 2 hours in the beginning of the third, but 3 full hours. Into the morning, that's how much time you have to say Shema, and afterwards you can't say it anymore in terms of the mitzvah, and it's as if you're reading in the Torah, as concludes Rabbi Yeshua there. Now an interesting question is asked. Is this idea, this cap of time, that a person has to say Shema within 3 hours of the day that's recorded in the Mishnah, Rambam, and Shulchan Aruch, of biblical status? It's a biblical quota. The biblical mitzvah of the Dibar Tabam Uv Kumecha can only be fulfilled during those 3 hours? Or do we say that biblically you can fulfill the mitzvah of Shema throughout the entire day, even in the afternoon, just like you can fulfill the biblical mitzvah of the night Shema throughout the entire night? And it's just that the sages placed a cap that initially it should be said within the first 3 hours of the day. So we find that the Kesef Mishnah on the Rambam in Hilchos Kriya Shema Halacha 1, as is recorded in the Magen Avram, actually explains like the latter approach, that the entire concept of Zman Kriya Shema is rabbinical. And in truth, biblically, you can say Shema the entire day, just like the night Shema can be said the entire day. However, practically, all the poskim negate this approach and rule that no, that there's a difference between the night Shema and the day Shema. While the night Shema can be said throughout the entire time of Shachbacha, when people are physically sleeping, which is the entire night, the day Shema biblically can only be said when people are still getting up from their bed, which is only up to 3 hours into the day and not more. So rules the Magen Avram in the Taz in chapter 58, in negation of the ruling of the Kesef Mishnah, and so is explicitly understood from the Alter Rebbe in chapter 58, Halacha 2 through 3, and is the simple implication of all the poskim. And thus, as the Alter Rebbe concludes, one must be very careful during days that have an early sunrise and or less daylight hours to hurry and recite the Shema on time, as this is a matter of a biblical doubt. If you miss the time, you forfeit the biblical mitzvah, and you can no longer make it up. On this concept of a person missing Zman Kriya Shema and saying Shema after the time, the Chachamim state in Brachos 26a and Chagiga 9a that this is called a Ma'uvis Layuchon Lataken, a mistake, a sin that has no fixing. As explains the Alter Rebbe in Tanya Geras HaKodesh chapter 1, that the divine light that could have and should have been drawn down through the recital of Shema within the correct time, when it's not said within those 3 hours, it is lacking and missing and can never be made up. And therefore every single person must be extremely careful to, of course, wake up on time to say Shema on time, and when they're awake to make sure to say it and not have the time pass. This especially applies when a person's davening at a later minyan, such as on Shabbos when the minyan starts later, and he may be involved in other things, he can forget to say Kriya Shema. he first and foremost should say Kriya Shema right away. And as a good idea, it should be said immediately after the morning blessings. In that way, one will not forget to do so. In Mir Tashem, in part 2 of this lesson, we will discuss, so practically, when is the end of these 3 hours? We said 3 hours into the morning. Well, when is morning? How do you define morning? When does the clock start ticking that 3 hours later it's over? Plus, what is hours in this regard? Is it 60-minute hours? Is it Zmanius hours? What is it? And what is the practical difference between all those Zmanim listed for Kriya Shema, Balatanya, Graz, Gra, Magen Avram? What's that all about? And what should I follow? So Mitzvah, all this coming up in our next lesson.
Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruchHarav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at ShulchanAruchHarav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.